Imagine waking up one morning, and by the end of the year, every powerful empire around you has simply vanished. No wars declared, no warning, just gone. Sounds like a movie plot, right? A little too dramatic to be real? Well, it happened. Around 1200 BC, in what historians now call the Bronze Age collapse, and to this day, nobody fully knows why. Let's rewind and set the scene. Around 1200 BC, the world wasn't some primitive, disconnected mess of tribes. It was actually a sophisticated, interconnected network of superpowers. Think of it like an ancient version of globalization. You had the Egyptians ruling the Nile with pharaohs and pyramids already 1,000 years old. You had the Hittite Empire, controlling most of modern-day Turkey, one of the strongest military powers on Earth. You had the Mycenaean Greeks. Yes, the guys from the Trojan War stories, running rich, palace-based kingdoms. You had the Assyrians, the Babylonians, and a web of trade routes connecting all of them, moving bronze, tin, copper, grain, and luxury goods across the Mediterranean. These weren't isolated kingdoms. They wrote letters to each other. Literally, we have clay tablets of kings writing to other kings, calling each other brother, negotiating trade deals, arranging royal marriages. It was diplomacy at a scale we don't usually associate with the ancient world. And then, within the space of about 50 years, which in historical terms is basically overnight, almost all of it fell apart. The Hittite Empire? Gone. Their capital city, Hattusa, was abandoned and burned. The Mycenaean palaces in Greece? Destroyed, one after another. Pylos, Mycenae, Tiryns, all in ruins. Major trade cities like Ugarit, one of the richest ports in the ancient world, burned to the ground. Archaeologists actually found a letter in the ruins, the city's last message, written in a panic, begging for help against enemy ships, saying the enemy was already at the walls. That letter was never sent. It was still sitting in the kiln when the city fell. Egypt survived, barely, but it was never the same global superpower again. Its economy collapsed. Its influence shrank. It limped on, a shadow of what it used to be. So what happened? What could take down 5 interconnected superpowers in just a few decades? Here's where it gets genuinely fascinating, because historians have been arguing about this for over a century, and there isn't one single answer. Instead, there are several suspects, and it's likely they all hit at the same time, like a perfect storm of catastrophe. Suspect number 1, the Sea Peoples. Egyptian records, carved into temple walls at Medinet Habu, describe a mysterious confederation of raiders called the Sea Peoples. Nobody knows exactly where they came from. Some theories point to the Aegean, some to Sicily and Sardinia. Some suggest they were refugees themselves, displaced from their own collapsing homelands and turned into desperate raiders. The Egyptian pharaoh Ramesses III boasted about defeating them in a great battle. But even after that victory, Egypt was never the same again. If a superpower like Egypt was this shaken by them, imagine what they did to smaller kingdoms with weaker defenses. Suspect number 2, climate change. Yes, even 3,200 years ago. Tree ring data, pollen samples, and sediment cores from the eastern Mediterranean all point to a massive drought that hit the region for decades. Not just a bad harvest year, a generational, civilization-breaking drought. And these Bronze Age kingdoms weren't self-sufficient. They ran on trade networks and grain imports. When crops failed everywhere at once and international trade was already unstable, there was no backup plan, no one to import food from, because everyone was starving. Suspect number 3, the collapse of trade itself. Bronze. The material this entire era is literally named after depends on tin, and tin was rare. It had to be imported from very specific locations, some as far as Britain and Afghanistan. Bronze Age economies and their militaries ran on this long, fragile international supply chain. Disrupt just one link, a war, a famine, a natural disaster somewhere along that chain, and the whole system could seize up. No tin, no bronze weapons. No bronze weapons, no functioning army. No functioning army, and suddenly you're defenseless against exactly the kind of raiders showing up on your coastline. Suspect number 4, internal collapse. Some historians argue it wasn't really outsiders who caused the fall. It was the system itself buckling from within. These Bronze Age kingdoms were extremely top-heavy. A small royal elite controlled almost everything: trade, food distribution, religion, military command, through massive centralized palaces. It worked great when times were good, but it was incredibly fragile. If the palace fell, the entire administrative system fell with it. No backup government, no local infrastructure to keep things running. Some evidence even suggests peasant uprisings and internal revolts breaking out as ordinary people turned against these overstretched elites. So picture it all happening together. A drought crushes agriculture. Trade routes for tin and grain break down. Kingdoms weaken and start fighting each other over shrinking resources. Displaced, desperate populations, possibly some of these very same collapsing societies, turn into raiders just to survive, becoming the sea peoples showing up on someone else's coast. And overstretched, centralized governments crack under the pressure, unable to adapt fast enough. It's not one villain. It's a chain reaction, a systemic collapse where each crisis made the next one worse. And here's the part that should genuinely give you chills. Historians studying this era keep coming back to one word: fragility. These were incredibly advanced, wealthy, interconnected societies. And that interconnection, the very thing that made them powerful, was also what made them vulnerable. When one part of the system failed, it didn't stay contained. It rippled outward and took the whole network down with it. Sound familiar? It's the same warning historians and economists bring up today when they talk about our own globalized, interconnected, just-in-time world. A shock in one place. A war, a supply chain break, a climate disaster. Doesn't stay local anymore. It ripples everywhere. The Bronze Age collapse is basically the oldest case study we have for too interconnected to survive a shock. What followed the collapse is almost as interesting as the collapse itself. Historians call the next few centuries the Greek Dark Ages, a period where writing itself disappeared in Greece for hundreds of years. The palace bureaucracies were gone, so the need to keep written records vanished with them. Population shrank. Trade slowed to a trickle. It took roughly 300 to 400 years for the Eastern Mediterranean to fully recover and for new powers, including, eventually, classical Greece, to rise from the wreckage. Which raises the real question historians still can't fully answer. If a network of interconnected superpowers, with diplomacy, trade, writing, and armies, could vanish this fast and this completely, how confident are we that it couldn't happen again? We like to think of collapse as something slow, something we'd see coming. But the Bronze Age collapse suggests otherwise. It suggests that even the most advanced, wealthy, unshakable civilizations can be closer to the edge than anyone realizes, right up until the letter in the kiln never gets sent.